You're watching the People's Television, ABC.
Fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this broadcast. Thank you for respecting our rendezvous. The SOS Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa, will be addressing the nation, I would say giving his weekly obvious briefings. But today it's going to be unlikely. There are some very important information that only a person of his caliber can communicate appropriately, first and foremost, to the nation of Ambazonia and then to the international community. We're going to have a beautiful time. With me is going to be Lady Casey. Lady Casey is going to join when we would have listened to the SOS give a briefing to the peoples of Ambazonia and the international community. I just want to seize this opportunity to encourage somebody. Lots of things happening out there, some getting discouraged. There is fighting in, out, and why we are struggling, why the president is strategizing, refocusing on ground zero to endeavor or to ensure that we make progress like never before. You have coup plotters, enablers, blacklists, those that are receiving some peanuts from the bulus in Yaoundé would rather want to dismantle our self-defense apparatus. They would want to destroy and distract our people. I saw a comment from one individual that purportedly was a Secretary of State. I don't know how he was made an Under Secretary of State, acting like a buffoon, comparing things that are irrelevant, very irrelevant. Some days ago, a man assumed in his mind that he was a mastermind because he had a platform. Because Ambazonians had graciously took him out of OH. He had called himself a journalist for so long, but had no platform. The struggle gave to him a platform. And then he thought numbers on Facebook, followers or viewers, should I say viewers, not followers? The president has the best way of describing it. And thought that he had the master key. He could dictate to Ambazonians the way forward. And his followers are following the same pattern of buffoonery. And they would want to consider or rate a struggle based on people watching on Facebook. I want to proudly announce to you, Ambazonians, that for the very first time, Ambazonia is broadcasting live globally in every country and every continent. Wherever you find yourself in the world, all you need is just to be a subscriber on ABC Amba TV website, and you're good to go. You have 24 hours news, updates from Ambazonia. Beautiful. This is the only platform that is maintaining the colors, holding the flag of Ambazonia so high. They can step the flag down, call it Africa, whatever, jumbo, bubble. We will stick with the flag of Ambazonia. And that is why you have to stick with us on this platform. This is the only platform that is moving towards Boya. The others, there are lots of questions you want to ask. You have the answers. I can only do as much as communicate the best of my diction. That being said, tonight, the SOS for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa, will be talking to us the step ahead of the Swiss process. Also, the SOS will also be examining some ground game changes that the strategies, I'm not very sure that he may want to deliver to you strategies on the media. But if you would observe, there are changes on the ground and there is shaking. And that's why the juntas of Yaoundé have called their playboys, tell them, kill some more, intimidate some more, and so that there will not be a part. They will come and join us and normalization will take the stage. No way. Like Dr. Willie Lobati said no at the defunct Restoration Council. Ambazonians, you have that same spirit. You're going to resist them. From every LGA, every county, you're going to say no to them. We are going to Boya. No one of us is going to Yaoundé. If they want to go to Yaoundé, they can go to Yaoundé with their household. As for me and you, Ambazonians, we have the master key. We are the ones that determine it. We are the ones that are mobilizing our resources and giving big to keep this platform alive. We are the ones that are mobilizing our resources big to make sure that the vision of this man, the strategist who came in 2018 and changed the ground game, made self-defense a reality, not a Facebook jamboree. This same man who has the strategy from stage to stage. It was initially my trip to Boya with some of his loopholes. He digressed or migrated and escalated the game into the draft. You saw what the draft has done in the nation of Ambazonia for 2 years. 2021 is the best year in the history of the peoples of the former British Southern Cameroons, today Ambazonia. And he's promising us something better in Lava Storm 3. I'm sure one of these days, maybe draft of 2022 will be starting. But before it starts, the president is telling us, listen, I've done it before, I can do it again. I have the right men on board, we can do this. For all of you who are watching me, remember that on Thursday, we'll be having details as to what is happening with some of our resources. The president himself will be taking your question. It starts at 8 p.m. Amba time on Zoom. That's the town hall, the APP town hall with the president. Forget about ghetto. Ghetto people love ghetto things, so they want to go to the ghetto town hall. But you are not a part of the ghetto. You are the dignified citizens of Ambazonia, and you know where to go, what to listen to, where to be at what time. And this is the platform for you to watch. Without any waste of your time, I understand we're starting about 30 minutes late. We were in the newsroom. I'm sure you're enjoying what is happening in the newsroom. Tell somebody that Ambazonia is streaming the news from Africa, world standard in every country, and be a part of the project. You can also hear some of the reports coming from IG Watchman. He volunteered to be a part of the newsroom. You can be a part of it. We have a person like Don Juan Obi giving to us wonderful content all the time. We cannot just detach ourselves from his page. We cannot detach ourselves from Kemi Ashu's war. And that is what Ambazonia is all about. These are men and women that believe in Ambazonia. And the newsroom is taking advantage of their sound minds to build real content for the international community. Yaoundé doesn't like us. You know why? Because we are the only ones that are channeling every Ambazonian to Boya. And as our mantra is, keep telling the world, telling Ambazonians, telling enablers and coup plotters, tell them Ambazonia is free. I want you to continue to tell them right now as I transition into the office of the Secretary of State for Communications and IT for his briefing. Right after that briefing, we will take some questions. The press secretary of the interim government, Lady Casey, and myself will be there to give some questions to the SOS, and then we will receive some calls, particularly or especially from Ground Zero. Stay tuned.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
a good videographer.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Yes!
Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well,
look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend. Problem gone.
Thank you. I've had this.
Global greetings to Ambazonians throughout the world. One more time, I'm happy to be in front of you today to talk about the struggle. First, 21 gun salute to our restoration forces, and also It's a day of mourning. I understand that over the past week, we've lost one of our generals, General Shakira. May his soul rest in power. I also know that some civilians have been shot and killed in Bui and other parts of Ambazonia. Let us have them in our prayers. I'm also referring my word of condolences to the victims of the cholera that took place in Victoria. I know that several hundreds are actually in hospital, and I wish them a very swift recovery. Today, I'm going to talk about, first, I want to extend my congratulations to Dr. Winnie Lobati, who is our first Speaker of the House ever since it was dissolved by the Ahidjo government. And I would like to take this opportunity to actually read out the names of the 34 members of the Interim House of Representatives. So I start here with the county of Menchum. You have Peter Kube from the Menchum Valley. For Sako, you have Iya Esther for Boya, Walter Chair for Victoria, Pa Abasinjan from Muyuka. For Boyo, Ernest Timge from Fundong, and Chenk Leban from Njinikam. For Momo, you have Secretary Ambrose Etenje from Gi, Dr. Winnie Lobati from Menemo, who's the speaker, Dr. Ruth Febe from Mogamo, Mr. Asabi Jackson from Jikwa, Mr. Joseph Agba from Widikum. From Ngokitunja, you have Dr. John Titanta from Babisi, Ernest Poo from DAP, Otto Tiale from Balikumbat. For KMC, you have Mr. Sumelong from Bangem and Mr. Fotabong Florentine from Gute. For Bui, you have Ma Therese Yenla for Bui. And for DMC, you have for Mohammed, that's Dan Fulani from Du. For Mezam, you have Comrade Timzu for Tuba, Pastor James Tita Nkwenza, Ma Constance Achu from Santa, Comrade Richard Gang Boga from Bali, Pa Clement from Mendankwe, Mangi Alice M. Fonyam from Bafoot, and Dr. Ade City from Mankon Bachongwa. For Meme, you have Daniel Eswe from Bonge, Omali Chama from Konye, Franklin from Kumba. From Dien, you have Tata Jonas Nambo from Ikondo Titi. From Manyu, you have Dr. Egbe Orok Sunday from Mansfield Central, Tanyi Victor from Upper Bayang, Mr. Elias Tabe Besong from Akwaya, Ma Kara Mak from Eyumejo, and from Libielem, we have Festus Asom from Alu. These are the lists of the new members of the Interim House, and I would like to also call out the leaders of the Interim House. You have the Speaker, who is Dr. Winnie Lobati, and the Deputy Speaker is Daniel Eswer from Bonge. And for the Secretary General, you have Secretary Ambrose Etenje from Gi, and the Deputy Speaker is Mr. Ernest Timge from Fundong. Congratulations to all the new members of the Dwa, House of Representatives. Now, I would like to start with some historical events so that I can use that to compare with what we are going through. It's always very good to refer to history because history will always tell us a lesson whether we are doing the right thing or not. And I will refer you to what happened within the ANC. So in August 1962, Nelson Mandela, then leader of the armed wing of the African National Congress, ANC, was arrested in Durban. He was jailed to a life sentence in 1964 after being convicted of plotting to sabotage the South African government. And he remained in prison until February 11, 1990. While in detention in 1961, Mandela surrendered leadership to free ANC activists. The president at that time was Mr. Albert Luthuli, who lived in KwaZulu-Natal KwaZulu in Natal province, South Africa. Like Siseko Ayuk Tabe of the IG, Mr. Luthilu wanted apartheid resolved by peaceful means or peaceful methods. ANC President Luthili won the Peace Prize in 1960. After Mandela jailed, the ANC, like the IG under Dr. Sako, decided to intensify the struggle through self-defense. The ANC struggle included sabotage of the apartheid state. It meant the leadership had to go into exile. After Luthili, sorry for my pronunciation, passed away in 1967 after a train accident, leadership was transferred to Oliver Tambo, who was in exile in London to intensify the struggle for freedom. However, unlike Siseko Ayuk Tabe, Mr. Mandela never contested for leadership from prison. He was only elected president of the ANC in 1991 following a long but successful campaign under Mr. Oliver Tambo's leadership from London. This is very important, and that comes to the position we find today. Isn't it striking that ever since Mr. Ayuk Tabe was in prison, no international organization, no diplomatic mission has called for his release? We should be asking ourselves this question. Why is it that everybody has gone silent except the IG under the leadership of Dr. Sako? There's a good reason for that. The fact that Siseko, having been imprisoned, cut away with the free people, the people who were fighting to free him, to form his own government in jail, meant that he was no longer interested in the freedom of our people, but the freedom of himself. Therefore, he became an isolated person, and people said, well, if you want to negotiate with Biya, go ahead and negotiate with him. And what did Biya do? He called them common criminals and jailed them. And those who are advocating for trying to reconnect with Siseko's IG in jail are simply doing exactly what Biya wants. They are going to bundle all of you. They'll say these are all elements of that criminal gang that was disturbing the peace, and you will all be jailed, and that will be the end of you. Or if at all you are released, you'll be released under one Cameroon. That is exactly why we are saying no. People have to understand this. Whether you call them co-plotters, whether you call them the Marianta faction, you call them the Chris Anu faction, they are all bundling all of you to send you to jail, and you all be labeled criminals. Because as of now, that's the label that has been given to Ayuk Tabe, and that label has stuck. And that's why nobody is crying for the release of Ayuk Tabe from jail, because he is considered a common criminal. And until Dr. Sako decided that we should go for self-defense, if we never went for self-defense until, there would never have been any solution to this problem. And the fact that we have the Swiss-led process today is simply because we're able to go to self-defense, and we're able to stand up against the regime in Yaoundé. So let it be known, anybody who feels that they can break away from the IG led by Dr. Sako, you are simply going to go into the deep end, and there is no solution for you. We are not going to Yaoundé. We are going to Boya, and we have to understand this. Now, a much bigger picture I have to show to you is the implication of us being with La République du Cameroun. This is a copy of the cooperation that La République signed with France on the 26th of December 1959. And please listen carefully. This is exactly why we are trying to leave these people. It's almost like a prenuptial agreement that La République had with France. And I'm going to read all the 6 points here. And hopefully we'll be able to discuss it. And even in your spare time, you can discuss this with fellow Cameroonians, fellow Ambazonians, to determine whether this is exactly what we want to be. Is this what, do we want to go back to La République? If we do, and then our fate awaits us in this document. So the first article is that France shall determine Cameroon's political, economic, and socio-cultural orientation. Listen to this. France will determine Cameroon's political, economic, and sociocultural orientation, which means that don't hope that you can form a new party like the SDF and then win elections and go to power. It's not going to happen. At least we have an example of the past. We know what happened in 1992, where Frundi actually won the elections. Everybody knows he won the elections, but what happened? The elections were torpedoed and Frundi went nowhere. In fact, he finally discovered that the only way for him to survive is to join the CPDM. Now he is a member of the CPDM. 2, France shall manufacture money for Cameroon. That's the CFA. That's true, and that's what has happened since independence. France has been manufacturing the CFA for us. 3, France shall guide determination of Cameroon's educational programs at all levels. You see, that's also very striking. And you can understand why teachers went on strike in 2016, because the ultimate goal for us was for us to be francophonized, or for us to be assimilated. That means that the English language is no longer a medium of instruction, and everybody will eventually have to speak French. You can see that today, that even most of us have a very poor mastery of the English language, because we get confused the moment you leave primary school. Some go to secondary schools in the French-speaking part of the country, some go to technical secondary schools, and so on and so forth. And by the time they get to maturity, they can just recognize a few words in English. And most of the time, they speak pidgin English because that's the medium they've been using all their lives. They have very little mastery of the English language. And you can understand this is actually in connection with this treaty that was signed with France. Number 4, the French public treasury shall have a portfolio named operations account to cover 100% of Cameroon's foreign exchange. This percentage has been revised to 65% in 1972 and 73, and in Brazzaville and Dakar for BEAC, and for Omoa, respectively, and finally sits at 50% today, which means that all the hard currency will reside in French treasury, and any money we intend to take out of our treasury, we have to take it as a loan, which means that it comes with an interest. I mean, it's almost like taking money out of your 401k in the United States, where although it's your money, you have to pay some interest on it. But there comes a time when you own all that money, unlike in the case of Cameroon, where that money never gets under its control. It's always in the French treasury. So that's a problem. So it's very difficult to make monetary policy when you don't have control of your money 100%. Number 5, France shall be given priority in exploitation of Cameroon's strategic raw materials. In the event where France is not interested, Cameroon may seek other partners or exploit the raw materials herself. Well, which means that everything that is under our soil actually belongs to France. It doesn't belong to us. So they will determine what they can exploit and what they are not interested in. So you can look for third parties. But in today's economic climate, what happens is that even if they're not interested, if the third party, they may still give you a price and bring in a third party to do it at a lower cost, and they take the difference and pocket. And that's what happened with the bridge in Douala. They were the ones who bid for that bridge, but it was finally given to the Chinese. The Chinese built it maybe at 70% of the cost, and the remaining 30% went into their pocket. So this is the game they play all the time. Number 6, on the 10th of November 1961, under the military assistance, each time that the Cameroonian president is overwhelmed by an external aggression or internal rebellion, he may call on French military assistance. In the event where the Cameroonian president is unable to seek his assistance by any form of communication, the French ambassador to Cameroon can make the request instead of the Cameroonian authorities. I think that's even true today. We all know that Biya is not probably able to make decisions. So who is making the decisions on his behalf? It's very likely there is a French ambassador to Cameroon. So now we have a pseudo-president, the French ambassador. He's the one actually making critical decisions on Cameroon. So let's all be aware of the implication of going back to Yaoundé. It is not just going back and hoping that we can negotiate something between us and be able to recover our sovereignty. It's not going to happen so long as this treaty is enforced. This treaty that La République signed with France on the 26th of December 1959. In fact, it means that the day after Christmas in 1959, Cameroonians became slaves. They were officially made slaves to the French, and that has been in place until today. And if we want to go to Yaoundé, we really have to understand that a much bigger problem is how to address the prenuptial agreement. I call it a prenuptial agreement, which France and La République went into before they were given a pseudo-independence. There is no independence whatsoever. And for those who have been clamoring to come together and join Sisiko in jail so that they can give the impression that they are united to go and negotiate with La République, this is what is waiting for you. You are simply going to get into that plantation and become slaves. That is all I have for you. This is the reality. And you don't say that you didn't know. That's why we are fighting. And to come to the Swiss process, now you can understand why the international community said, well, Mr. Ayuk Tabe, you decided to negotiate, you cut off every relationship with the people who are supposed to fight for you. Okay, that's fine. You can go on and do what you want. And that's why nobody is even thinking about Ayuk Tabe. If the IG under the leadership of Dr. Sako doesn't do anything, that's the end of Mr. Ayuk Tabe. He will be in jail forever. Or if at all he's released, they'll give him conditions that you'll not believe it. In fact, they'll release him and say, okay, who knows? Whatever they give you, they may give you a ministerial portfolio. But you know what the Francophones do. And while you're a minister, they start compiling dossiers behind your back. And one day you'll be arrested and will trump up charges and you go back to jail and probably spend the rest of your life in jail. This is the plan for Mr. Tabe and the rest who are clamoring to go join with him. So we are here as the watchdog. The interim government cannot accept that, and that's why we are fighting. And thanks to the ARFs and under the leadership of the Commander-in-Chief, Dr. Sako, we're able to put on some real resistance, and that led to the Swiss-led process. And all I can tell you is that the Swiss-led process is still alive. What makes it alive is the presence of the international community. And I want to assure you that we have been having meetings with the Swiss authorities. But there are certain things that you really have to know here. The negotiations are between two parties, and only two parties. And these two parties have equal, how do I put it? In terms of value, they are equally valued at the table. Nobody is in control of the other. Okay, neither La République nor the IG. And the IG, under the leadership of Dr. Sako, is the other party. It's one party, the other is La République du Cameroon. And now what I have to tell you is that our future does not depend on what La République does, but on what we do. You have to understand this. Our future does not depend on what La République does. And vacancy in La République has no impact on that process, on the Swiss process. Whether there is a president or not in La République, this process will go on. And the outcome depends on what we do, not what La République does not do. So like the Fumban conference where Foncha was the principal, Sako is the principal as far as the Swiss-led process is concerned. And that's where you see ACT. So that you are going to have a bunch of like-minded people around Dr. Sako. But he is the principal. He's the one who will be negotiating on behalf of Ambazonia within the Swiss-led process. This is what I want to tell you. And I think I've given you enough summary so that you should rest assured that we are on board on the Swiss process and Dr. Sako is on top of the process. So this is what I wanted to bring to your attention, fellow Ambazonians, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you. Over to you, Paddy.
Problem.
Big problem.
I really needed.
A good videographer.
And I kept searching.
And searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine. Use mine.
I'm very...
Hello, SOS. Thank you very much for that great briefing there. I would say you've made some exciting statements. Amazonians are so proud about the statements you've been able to make. We are connecting. Fortunately, on this platform, you have one of your questionnaires, or those that will be interviewing you, is the press sec at the office of the president, whom I'm sure is privy to some information that I'm not. And you have spoken interesting things, and you've spoken in dots, you know, in some patches. It's exciting, it's sweet, it's interesting. But I believe myself and Ambazonia and some of us want to know more. And you diplomats, politicians, you continue to tell us some of these things is not for public consumption. And I understand that. The Kintasan Wilfred also told us that politics is good when it is done in a silent. Lady Casey, what do you think?
Absolutely. He really made one very, very powerful statement. And greetings, Secretary of Communication, Dr. Mungwa. I mean, you have given us kind of, you know, a little like a vivid, you know, position of the interim government, a vivid description of the current state and activities of the interim government, and that is really amazing. And you capture it in very short phrases that, like Paddy said, we want to dig into it and see that, you know, most Amazonians want to know, you know, the depth of some of the things you say so that we can all be on the same page and we can all move on. Yeah, because I may know what is going on, but most of our viewers are not fully aware, and that's why we have this session, and we are very, you know, privileged and happy that we can have you on ABC every week consistently to brief us of what is going on, and always ready, always coming up with great lessons from history, from events across the world. You always narrate it and relate it to our realities, which makes it so amazing and so easy to comprehend. And I hope that everybody that's watching is following this closely, and so we can all learn and energize and re-energize ourselves as we move on in this fight. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you once again, press sec, for that interlude there. You're just talking like the Secretary of State for Communication. It would appear the president has tamed you both to try to talk to us Ambazonians shallowly today. But that notwithstanding, we will go right away into some questions, and the press sec and I have a couple of questions from you. We're also going to take questions from the public. I'm encouraging all those watching us. We may not be able to take all the calls, but it will be a wise idea for you to type some of your questions, because I'm following the comment section and I'll take your question. Number one question from me to you, SOS. You have seen what is happening on the ground. During the last town hall, the president assured us. In fact, he went as far as giving to us accountability of monies that were sent to different counties in the presence of their county chairs from whatever Ambazonians have contributed. And the county chairs will acknowledge receipt of this money. Now, is it all about giving money? Is there a strategy? You may not want to give us that strategy totally, but even if you do not want to describe what your strategy is, you should be able to give to us snippets of what we are supposed to expect. There is a time frame. Coup plotters are not wasting their time. They are not waiting. We are not, we the people are tired of waiting. We want results like now. And so, if you, as spokesman for the government, would have to talk today to Ambazonians, what should we expect and how soon?
Right. Thanks for that question. And I think, yes, as Secretary of State for Communication, I can give you a lot of information that is actually meant for the public. But there are times that there's a conflict between something that is meant for the public and something that is of strategic value. And I believe that in this particular case, if I have the Secretary of Self-Defense, I think he might be able to give you some of the nitty-gritty. But one of the things that have come up ever since 2021 was actually to improve on supply chain. Supply chain is a very important aspect in a conflict like this. And if you have noticed, even with the war in Ukraine, it's actually affecting supply chain throughout the world. It's not only affecting supply chain in Europe, it's affecting supply chain in America. It's affecting supply chain in my company. So Ukraine has affected the way we go for materials, either finished products or in order to bring to the company to address certain specific issues. And the same thing is happening on the ground. But one of the things that we're able to do, which was a major hiccup, a major bottleneck, was the fact that supply chain was not well mastered. And that led to a lot of loss. From the discussions that I've had, either with the president or with the Secretary of State for Self-Defense, I think they were able to address some of those supply chain issues, meaning that they have understood how materials are obtained and distributed, and I think they have a better hold on the process. And knowing the difficulty that we have in our region, so I mean, you can understand if that issue comes to the surface, and the fact that it went all the way to the president, and he's able to look into that. That is the best I can tell you. Okay, I can tell you that supply chain in every conflict is a major issue, and our conflict is no special. So I just want you to bear in mind, perhaps with the knowledge of what is happening in Ukraine, you can probably appreciate when I talk to you about supply chain. It's a very important thing, and it's been one of the areas where we've improved dramatically over the last 2 to 3 years. So that's the best I can tell you. I understand that ever since the president talked about moving funds to certain parts of Ambazonia, he has continued. He has actually given funds to another part of Ambazonia to specific military elements. So I hope he is going to disclose that during our next town hall. But that's the best I can tell you for now. In terms of, again, strategy, I think I can disclose strategy to you. I hope you can bring up the Secretary of State for Self-Defense so that he knows how to tell you in his own words in a way that it doesn't jeopardize the life and the life of our soldiers. I mean, that's the best I can tell you. Over to you.
Wow. Thank you, SOS. You are always conscious of the security details in the day-to-day prosecution on any activities in this struggle, and that is the consciousness I would believe and hope that every Ambazonian will have, because it's not everything you hear on ground that you do breaking news on social media, because that will be giving the enemy free intelligence to block our efforts. So I am really loving that. But building up from that, also Ambazonia needs to be aware, needs to know that, like you mentioned, that the supply chain had issues, and they've been, as a result, a lot of loss. How can Ambazonians participate in knowing that how can they come to know that this information, or the interim government or the IG or the county is strategizing, is doing everything to ensure that the solution, these supply chains are 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 smoother, these losses are being reduced, the losses that we've had over the years as a result of these supply chains are being reduced. How can they come to that position to know in this information, to be carried along, to know that okay, they are in the right place, the strategies are being implemented, things are moving forward? What should they do to be in the know so that they are
Well,
inspired?
even I myself, I would like to know what happens on a minute by minute basis. But you have to understand that communication is key in every conflict of this nature. As I think I've mentioned in the past, I think one of the gifts that our president has is the art of communication, and to able to liaise with the ground commanders as well as the fighters on the ground. It's something that is indispensable when it comes to making sure that this supply chain issue is resolved. He hosts meetings almost on a daily basis with ground commanders. The fact that I know that he has already dispatched some funding to the ground is part of this communication strategy, because he called me and we had a discussion a couple of days ago, and he let me know that, you know, I have done this, and he gave specific names. But I'm not the one to come on television and say, oh, he gave 20 cents to A and 40 cents to B. I think that is relevant. But what I can tell you here
Okay,
is that
sorry, let me interrupt you there. Do you think that the counties can help Ambazonians, if they are participating in their counties and LGA, to be in the position to understand the improvements to cut out all these losses we've had as a result of the changes and fluctuations in supply chain?
well, I mean, if this is a war, this is Ambazonia's war, and I don't think I have to come here to. I think put it another way. Isn't it just obvious that if you want this war to be executed, you should be part of it. You should be part of it, not even in terms of making sure that supply chain or whatever works. You should be part of it in terms of contribution. When you contribute, then you probably have a right to be part of the process to know what's happening. You can't just rise up and say, oh, I want to join my county. I want to see how the money is used to make sure that. No, it doesn't work that way. You must be part of the process. I know about it because I'm part of the process. I don't think the president just liked my looks and said, okay, Martin, come over, let me tell you what is going on. He knows that I put in money, and I will be interested to make sure that the money is put to good use. So if you are a contributor, you also have a natural right in order to be part of your LGA, and then to be part of a committee, and then to make sure that you understand how these funds are dispatched. It's not just walking, showing up one day and say, I want to know how money is used so that I can help. It doesn't work that way. You have to join your LGA. You have to be part of your county. You have to take up a position to help. There are open positions in HSS. I read it last time. Why not join it? If you join it and you contribute, obviously you'll be part of the solution. I think that's the message I want to send across. It's not just walking by and saying, oh, I want to help. You cannot help when you are not part of it. And the only way we know you're part of it is that you're up to date in your CID, you're up to date in your draft, and you're also paying for Lava 3. I have paid for Lava 3 already. So you have to lead by example. I cannot come here and ask people to pay for Lava 3 when I haven't paid. I have paid for Lava 3. I have paid for my contribution from my county for the entire year, so that I just feel that at least I've done what I'm supposed to do. So I have a right to know what is happening. I have a right to know how this money is being spent, because it is part of my business. I already paid. That's the way that you can get involved. That's the way you can improve on supply chain. That's the way you can know what's happening. There's no other way to this.
Thank you very much, SOS. Ambazonians, if you have noticed, I would say it's 2 against 1. You see the SOS. When I say something, the press sec just comes and supports the SOS. I'm trying to dig into the minds of Ambazonians to see if I can help in their place, I'm standing in their stead on this platform to see if I can help some of their answers, some of their questions answered. But you've said something, SOS, which I think is not different from what Dr. Winnie said yesterday. Dr. Winnie Lobati actually said your involvement may also have to go to the extent of your contribution, which I think is kind of logical. It's like what the Bible says. It says that your giving goes where your heart is. So if you cannot give either your time or your resources, then it is evident your involvement could be destructive. And we've learned from examples. Now, to make progress, SOS, there's an aspect of what Lady Casey said, which you have kind of touched on it. And you mentioned the contribution part as a mechanism. Perhaps you may want to explain extensively how these people get involved. Do they just get involved via contribution? And if you are saying that they get involved after contribution, what kind of involvement? Are they involved in the military strategy? You have also said that is risky. So what involvement is it? Is it part of the president coming on during the town hall to tell them, okay, this is what we've done? Can somebody come to them at some time? The treasury has promised us that they're going to come now. There are new sheriffs in town. They're going to come from time to time to tell Ambazonians, listen, this is what you gave. This is what we have been able to do. That's a good thing. How do we intend to do all of this? Okay. Good ideas, good intentions. How do we intend to do them? And yet prevent intelligence to be given to the enemy. The press secretary just highlighted that.
Yes.
It's something very vital.
Right. Remember, this is a voluntary service, and that makes it even very, very difficult for you to find the type of talents that you think can actually work in this circumstance. Initially, before we started this struggle, we just felt that as Ambazonians, we all want to go to Boya. It was almost self-evident, it was clear. But over the years, we now discover that not everybody wants to go to Boya. And when you have a voluntary service, it's very difficult to choose who you want and who you don't. It was an open door policy. But over the years, from the activities and the actions and each of every one of us, it became very clear that some were actually detrimental to this struggle. And that's why they had to be replaced. So this is a very difficult question for me to answer. But what I'm going to tell you is that each and every one of us, especially those living in the diaspora, you have a certain talent. Depending on what sort of education you went through, or what sort of profession you are in right now. Some are in accounting, some in engineering, some are in whatever, liberal arts, and so on and so forth. Each of those disciplines or professions can be tailored to the needs of the interim government. And I don't think I'm really the person to dictate how it can be done without actually going how I even came into the interim government. Okay, I saw what I felt I was part of the solution in the struggle, and I joined. And when I joined, I made sure that I gave them the best of my expertise. And in the course of, let's say, the audit, for instance, people discovered that I had a very good ability to listen, to put ideas together, and to give a summary after the event. And from there, they suggested that I should be, I should lead the audit process and present it to on ABC television. I put in the best I could, and today I'm Secretary of State for Communications and IT. So it is very difficult, but remember, it's a voluntary service. And when people come into a voluntary service, we don't know whether they come with goodwill or bad will, or they are coming here to help or to destroy. So I think it depends, is the watchful eyes of those who are already inside, who will determine whether the person who is coming in has a good or a bad intent. They will watch you, they'll see whatever you do, and over a very short period of time, they can determine that, is this the type of person we need? Does he have the skill set that will help us move to the next level? There is no panacea. There's no magic pill to say that, okay, if you pay your draft, if you pay your CID, then you are good to do one thing or the other. It still may not be good enough. We may see character issues. We may see how you hold confidential information. Are you the type who will listen here and then tomorrow is all over the social media? So there are lots of factors. There's so many moving parts that I think I'm the least qualified to actually come here and say this is what we really have to do. But all of us, we are all responsible. Whoever is in your LGA, with whom you have meetings, what postings, I mean, he's interested in, what he posts. There are lots of things that we know. There are still people within us who may not be working in goodwill. Okay, after all what has happened over the past month or so, some of whom have been identified and taken out of our group, but there's still some in there. We don't know. So it's a very difficult question in as much as I find it is extremely valid. So what I suggest, what my recommendation is that it all depends on those working together. I have worked with the communication people. I know them. I have talked to them. In fact, of the people I talked to when I got this portfolio, about 4 or 5 have left. And I could sound it from the way when I spoke to them. Their opinions and the way they felt that the department should be run. I knew that they were on the wrong course. It was just a matter of time for me to determine, conclusively that they weren't actually for our course, and they left. It will happen in every department. We just have to be watchful. And I believe that, in fact, at this time, despite what I've said, there are more good people who are working for the struggle than bad ones, because we removed a lot of bad ones in the past several months. And I hope that with that in mind, we'll attract more good people and we can move on in a much more stronger, with more strength, okay, and enthusiasm. That's all I can say.
Wow, thank you, SOS, for that elaborate and a very noble.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Okay.
Ambazonians that are watching, keep sending in your questions. I have taken note of your question. Adu Ufembe, I'm going to ask that to the SOS. Those you are watching us and you have concerns, keep typing in your questions and we'll give them to the SOS. I've taken note of your question. Okay, Lady Casey, please.
All right, thank you. I mean, SOS, you've given a very noble response, and it takes somebody with high integrity and intelligence to know that we are all in a learning process. That if you don't, it's okay to not know a response to a question or in much detail as is being asked, and that is inspired. That is very inspiring, and this is the type of attitude that I wish we can all learn, because I have just been touched by that. And you've said that now we have some good people. You talk from your experience since you joined the communications department, which the transformation is amazing, in my view. And you mentioned that the 5 of the out of 5 people have left, which they were part of the department when you joined. And you mentioned how we will build up and attract good people. Now, is this in this attraction of good people, and in the cause that we are fighting, what can you tell some Ambazonian with the skill, with the knowledge, with the zeal and the desire to be part of this interim structure, to serve the Ambazonian people, to serve in this revolution with the interim government? What can you tell them, or to know that the door is open? What direction can they take? How can they come to be part of it? Because there are so many people who may be watching us who doesn't know, how can I fit in? Maybe I have a graphic design skill and I want to work for ABC. I want to be able to do graphics for ABC. Maybe someone say I am a good presenter, or I can communicate. There are so many avenues. You mentioned HSS as well, where people can serve the interim government. How can we, what message can you tell this type of people who are contemplating on how to get involved with people with goodwill, good intention.
I mean, Casey, you already made a pitch for somebody to join the communications department. I think I don't want to feel that I have the authority to talk about other departments because the different secretaries of state, they probably know what their basic requirement is. And just let me tell you a little story. About 3 days ago, some gentleman who is part of the club, ABC Club, he posted something that was considered nonsense. It wasn't. It wasn't the type of posting that we expect in our group, in our forum. So people say, "Who is this? This guy must be a black leg and so on. Get him out." I read it, and I was the one who I took him out. I took him out. This morning, the person actually sent me a text message apologizing, said, "Listen, I have been so happy to be part of ABC Club. I'm so sorry. I just wanted people to look at this video and see what I thought they will explain to me. I'm very, very sorry. I am part of the group." What did I do? I readmitted him on the basis of that. I thought he was honest, and I gave him a second chance. So you don't just label somebody. People may make mistakes. It is, to err is human, and to forgive divine. I think that's the expression of all now. So I brought him back. He didn't know that I'm this, because in that form they don't know I'm the Secretary of State. I'm just an ordinary person. Because he discovered that I'm the one who took him out. So he contacted me, and I brought him back in. I gave him a second chance. Now, it is. I mean, if you have skills that you can offer the, ABC, graphic design. I mean, I am the titular head of this department, but I don't know all the specific skills that you need. I would suggest that in each of the departments, you have to put together all the skills or all the openings that you would hope that Ambazonians who have the necessary skills can apply. And then we can post them on the internet, I mean, on a web page and elsewhere, so that people can say, okay, I can help in this, I can help in that. I don't think there's anything unusual with that. And I strongly support it. And if you see my management style, I don't micromanage. I believe that each of you come here with a skill. I just make sure that it is the reception on the other side is positive, and people do not complain of unnecessary, I don't know how to put it, things that need to be fixed, basic things that need to be fixed. That's how I want to run my department. People call me 90% of the time is to tell me how great the ABC TV is and other departments, and I cherish that. In as much as a few people also call me to complain about a few things, I don't ignore them. I know how to contact the people involved in a very subtle and respectable way. And what I've discovered is that the explanations that they give me, or you people give me, are always valid. I say, okay, I understand. These are all growing pains. It needs time for us to get to full speed. And I can see the change that you've made over the past month since January. Now we've gone global. I mean, we should be celebrating. I wish we could meet, in one area and then actually celebrate, because this is a success. This celebrating success is part of leadership. Leadership is not only planning the work and working the plan, working in teams, and leading, seeking and accepting responsibility. We also have to celebrate success. We have to say, Casey, thank you for this work you've done. Look at what you've done on the platform. Say the same to Chief Oben. Say the same to Paddy and all the staff who've been working round the clock. I mean, I think I talked to Paddy one time. It was about 4 a.m. in the morning. He picked up the phone and said, "Oh, I'm preparing to go out and go on ABC TV and start preparing for your presentation today." I was so touched. I was so early in the morning. I appreciate that. I would like to say thank you to all of you, so that people know that you are doing a remarkable service to the Ambazonian people and to the struggle. Over to you, Casey.
Thank you very much, SOS. This was the question of I think Olu Femba on Facebook. Please continue to put your questions, because I'm following them, and they are just on track as to what we wanted to discuss this evening. That leads us to the next phase of our discussion. You have given snippets of the Swiss-led process. It sounds so sweet, but I guess me and Ambazonians, we want it sweeter. I know I'm going to have a difficult or challenging time this evening because Lady Casey is there to just support you in the way. Now she supported you by telling us you have admitted you cannot answer a question. But what I think is, I do not think you could not answer the question. I think that you avoided the question because I would expect that you should have said more on that aspect of what was asked. That notwithstanding, Ambazonians, you pray for me. All those
Buddy, I
watching
would
now,
like
pray
to
for me.
interrupt you there. I am not supporting him. He said he does not know the answer and he cannot talk about activities of other departments, which is why we should
Yeah.
encourage leaders of other departments and directorates to come on ABC and tell the people of Amazonia what they are doing, because they are doing a lot of work and Amazonia don't know. If we did not broadcast the ASSC2, if we did not broadcast the inauguration of the IHR, the Interim House of Representatives, Ambazonia will not fully grasp or live through the experience. And what I was expecting is that Ambazonia, when I said involve, be in the knowing, is Ambazonia to be able to live through the experiences of the everyday endeavor and activities of the interim government to see that this revolution is prosecuted with excellence and it is going forward in the right direction, and it's not necessarily giving him an excuse or making him feel comfortable for not answering a question in much detail to the people. And also on the part of me supporting the it's maybe because like you said, understand some of
You're
the
press secretary, so you're a
strategic
politician. And on this platform, you choose
just
to
so
be
I understand
political.
some of the
I
strategic
get it.
things.
Listen,
That
I think one of the
notwithstanding,
reasons
I think
why,
we should.
let me just say
That
this.
notwithstanding, I
Just
think we can make some progress. SOS. It's
okay.
not. I just thought that could help as a fun. Um, this is what I think. My opinion and those watching. I remember a year like this. I'm your antagonist, the both of you. So I'm taking the position of the people who would want to make sure that we get the most of the SOS. It's not. We don't have him every day. We have him once. Sometimes there are some weeks he's touring the war virtually with the president and cannot even come live. And this brings me to my question. You have been touring around with the president, attending meetings, secret meetings, meetings in high places, in high offices. I understand some of the president has signed some of these meetings and said, we've been active in diplomacy. I quote him. That's what he said last Thursday. And SOS, I beg to differ with the press secretary at the office of the president, that you would avoid to answer some questions, maybe because you want to give credence to others in their different portfolio. But you are the spokesman for the entire government, and I believe that you would have to liaise with every structure and get some level of information. So I know that you have some information, and then may want to flee yourself from not answering the question by shifting it to the secretaries of state. I'm also not sure if I bring Comrade Frank here, he will say something different. He will also tell me, well, we don't want to get strategies here. This is the
I'm not
point.
sure about that.
Olufemba is saying that. Olufemba is saying something here which I want us to talk about. He says, what is the state of the struggle now? That's based on your assessment. I think I would like to talk about the state of the home front. You just mentioned unity warriors killing our fighters.
Right.
The state of the struggle when it comes to diplomacy, the diaspora, our level of mobilization.
Right.
I want you to talk more on this aspect of the ground. The IG strategy on the ground, how we intend to counter these evil forces purporting as unity warriors, killing and slaughtering and intimidating our people, and also to give us more information. You actually instructed me to send out a publicity which is captioned an advanced stage of the Swiss process. Okay, yes, we're having talks. At what stage are we? Initially, we were talking with I know when you want to go into the palace, maybe you talk with a chinda, you can quote it. And then the next stage, you now have access to talk with the elders. And when you graduate from talking with the elders, you are now invited into the front palace where serious discussion is taking place. These are 3 levels. You may want to classify them in that 3 levels. That will console some Ambazonians listen to us. Am I talking your minds? If I'm talking your minds, give me some love signs there,
Right.
and let's
Yes,
make
I
progress.
mean,
SOS, please.
I think for once, Paddy, you've really put me in a corner, and I just really have to be honest with you that between myself and the head of state, the 2 layers, in terms of authority, because now we are talking about foreign affairs. To be honest, I don't really have the authority to talk on foreign affairs. I thought this was like a gift to you to talk about it. I could have sat here and said, well, maybe I'll talk to SOS Foreign Affairs or his deputy to talk about it, because they have the authority. They have the timeline ever since this struggle started, how they've been meeting up to now. I don't. I have a certain snippet at a certain time in space, but I can't exploit it beyond my ability to to talk to you as the Secretary of State for Communication. Remember, I'm communications, but so I have limitations when it comes to areas that are specific to some departments. If I have to talk about ABC TV, we can talk all night. We can talk all the way to the morning. But now coming to something very important, which is actually the state of the struggle. I mean, this is not a lie. Ever since the coup plotters started to stab us in the back, and last year, it's been a very, very difficult process for us to recover. I cannot lie to you, but we are recovering. That's the good thing. I think these people felt that they were going to collapse the IG, but they've put themselves in a situation where they don't know how to move forward. That's why you should understand. How come that ever since they had a president and a vice, we don't see a government? Does it mean that they are anticipating taking over the government that is in jail, that has already declared itself that they are common law criminals according to La Republique? Is that what they intend to do? It's a matter of wait and see. Or they really have to appoint a government where they will take over the role that we do, and to prove to us that they're in some sort of diplomacy, because the best I know, they have nothing as far as the Swiss-led process is concerned. Their name is not on the list. So I want you to understand this. I'm not coming here to whitewash everything and say, oh, we are powerful. We are doing.
SOS, I must say that what you have just said now is sweet enough to listen. And that's what I wanted.
Okay.
So you're actually answering the question.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So we have to be honest with ourselves, and that's what I'm saying. But what the president has done in the past week, how he has been able to talk to our commanders, all the way to Field Marshal the King, how he has communicated and is trying to put things in place, that is what I have my hope for, and that is very important to us. We have to recover from this mess. We were given a very, very dangerous blow. But the good thing is that we fell down, but we stood up and we dusted ourselves and we are ready to go. But what is even amazing, that in the course of landing that blow, they became unstable as well. They thought they were just going to crush us, and by today, Dr. Sako will be history. I don't have to tell you. You look outside. What have they done? The Marianta group. Do they have a cabinet? They go out announcing things. Don't you realize that they are stuck? We've given them the Restoration Council. Okay, take it. But they come back insulting the Interim House of Representatives. I mean, we don't know where to go. Whenever we pull ourselves and say, carry on with what you want to do, they are stuck. You cannot have a government that is just made up of, how do you call them? Activists. They're all activists. Every day they're hitting on the IG. They say things about this person. They're saying this about that person. Instead of governing, they should govern. Governing is not easy. So in as much as I do accept that we're dealt a very difficult blow, we are not giving up.
Yes.
We are still standing and we are still fighting. And we need the Ambazonian people to support us in this process. We need the ARS to listen to us. They have to move away from this unity force that they are creating in order to destroy our own forces. They have to listen to us. I think that's the message I have.
But before you take the next question, let me just
No, go ahead. You're the one.
say this.
It's your turn. It's your turn, not mine.
Yes, I really don't. I want to. I just want to emphasize something the SOS have just said, and that is regarding the distractions we've had in the past 3 months. In the first quarter of the year has been a total distraction by the coup plotters. And they are not, their names are not that honorable for me to be pronouncing. When I say coup plotters, you all understand. So
Coopers.
it is their turn, like the SOS have said. They have come together, they have gathered themselves, and nobody has an issue with them to lead the way. If they say they are doing better, they have called, like they have been calling all sort of names, insulting people, saying this and this, and is incompetent, this is, it has failed. Now is their time to succeed, because I want to say here that they have raised 70,000. We need to see materials on ground. We need to see the ground hot as we are organizing ourselves in the house, in this interim government, as we are cleaning the house and re-strategizing and repositioning ourselves. They can take charge. Because what we want to do is go to Boya. But one thing I will say is
Listen,
that if you are not at the top, you cannot be the topic, because the interim government headed by Dr. Sako is the top. It's at the top, and that's why it's the topic. They don't have any topic. If the interim government sneeze, they catch cold. If the interim government move, they are sweating. So there is nothing. If the interim government do nothing, they have nothing to say or do. So we should know that we are at the top, and that's why Dr. Sako is the topic. And that's why this interim government is a topic. Anything we do, they want to talk. Anything we do, they want to talk, because that's all their strength. Which strategies, which idea, they should start telling us that their roadmap, their plans. They have the resources, they have the people. They say they have raised 70,000. Now we need, as the people, to see what is the result. Like I said last time when I was here, that we want to see the result for Ambazonia, the impact in our revolutions. Not be, every day Sako go off, Sako come down. No, we know Sako is at the top, is naturally the topic. Sako is the head. You always make their headlines. We already know that one.
Let me put a pin on the balloon
yeah,
that
this
they've shown
is
in
getting
terms of.
interesting. SOS, as you
Let-
get ready to put that, because Sako is on top, he is the topic. Because he's the head, he will fill the headlines. I get it. That sounds so. You just gave me something. I'm going to put that and write that and put in all of my script. SOS. Amazonians,
Yes.
all of you watching, please. I want you to continuously share, and share. We have two heavyweights. We have the press secretary from the office of the president and the secretary of state for communication. Both of them are here to talk to you, and they have at least 2 hours to go. Yes, yes,
So,
Secretary of State, go ahead, please.
right. So you have to understand this. I mean, they claim that they raised 70,000. I have my doubts, and these are the reasons why. First, how did they raise the 70,000? They went on a radio station and they were asking, and people were raising their hands. I'm going to pay $1,000. And the person, we don't know who that person is. There is no recording of whatever that money was sent or not. That the person just made an offer. Okay, I'm going to pay $1,000. We hardly do that. We actually have special sessions where people give their names, and there are people behind the scene who connect with them. They give them the payment options, and at the end of it, we are able to tell you how much we'll be able to gather. So this so-called, I don't know, it's a media stunt that they've just gone out to say they raised $70,000. I really doubt it. But what is even more interesting, I hope that next month they'll do an audit to make sure that the money is well spent. You see, they're always very quick to come out and say, oh, MTTB, blah, blah, we've done this, you haven't provided this. This is their turn. I want them to do an audit. How are they going to do an audit? I want to find out. What account are they going to use? Is it a 501c account? Have they even created such an account? Is it done in England or the United States? Because Marianta is not known within the US, and which is even funny because she wanted to take over our treasury. How can she take over the treasury as a foreigner and then to send the tax returns to the Internal Revenue Service in the United States? Who is going to sign it? Can you imagine how crazy these people are? How can
Meaning the
you?
objective was
It
to
is
take
being
the
signed
treasury
by
and to
Dr.
destroy it.
Sako. It's been signed by Dr. Sako. But this lady in England thinks that she can take over our treasury, which is registered as an NGO in the United States, recognized by the Internal Revenue Service, and then a foreigner is signing the paperwork. How is it going to work? If they were not just trying to destroy the interim government, to make sure that we have no access to any money, and then to stifle us, and then they turn back and say, oh, you are not funding the revolution. Can you imagine how
Absolutely
wicked these people
SOS.
are? Do you know how wicked these people are? How can a foreign person in England sign our internal revenue? Can we even do that? Internal Revenue Service documents, the tax documents. Can we go to England to sign the tax documents, for an entity that is registered in England as an NGO or non-profit organization? This tells you the intent of these co-plotters. And let Ambazonians understand, if they are telling you that they want to fund this revolution, I hope that before she transfers office in 3 months, we are going to do an audit. I want to see who are the members of the audit department. Do they have a chartered accountant who is ready to do the audit? And where will the paperwork be filed? Do they have a 501c account? Is it in the United States or in England? Let them start answering those questions, because this thing don't just happen in thin air. You need to have a structure. There is a president, there is a vice president. I don't know any other person in that cabinet. I don't. Unless you have heard, maybe share it with me. Over to you.
It's not even vital. It's
Yeah,
not. It's not important. We are not interested, and it's
yeah.
quite important that we get this straight. Lady Casey, go ahead, please.
Paddy, let me just finish before you round up. Exactly.
Go
I was
ahead.
just saying that
We're not
they
rounding
have
up. We still have
decided.
at least an hour to be here. Ambazonians will
Okay,
not
no,
let you
not
guys
round
go
up.
until
I
you
mean
answer some
round up
questions
on this subject.
on this
On
aspect.
this
Yeah.
subject. Yeah, on the aspect of the discussion. The point like I was saying before, the SOS, just to give it some more flesh to it. Like, we are not particularly interested in how they structure the activities, but we want to see the results that will benefit the revolution. Now they are claiming they have money, and they have said, oh, the Sako is finished. That we will not continue to create this magnitude of distraction and then blame Dr. Sako when things doesn't go well. Now that they have said that Dr. Sako is incompetent, Dr. Sako is inefficient, Dr. Sako has failed, in fact, Dr. Sako is history, we want to say they should take this opportunity that they have given themselves to prove to Ambazonians that they are competent, they are a success. And how do we know that on the ground? When we see
Result.
the pinch on La Republique, when La Republique feel their presence. This struggle is not on Facebook, it's not on social media, it's not to make declarations and public statements. It's the practical substance on ground, is the activities that favors the cause of our liberation. So any other thing anybody is saying or doing is inconsequential. So now that they have the floor, and we are very pleased that they are claiming they have raised this much money, we want to see a group of fighters, say 50 for example, all well armed, ready to take on the enemy. Then we know that they are succeeding. I will be number one to congratulate and praise them and support them for that effort. So how they choose to go about it, that's none of our concern. But now that they have put themselves in that position and show us all manner and attitude of evil and sheer wickedness, let them prove to Ambazonians that they are for Ambazonia. Because until then, anything they do is none of our
It's a
business.
waste of
And
time.
personally, yeah.
Wow.
Okay, Paddy.
Ambazonians, I told you tonight is not going to be an ordinary night. This night, I have the press secretary and I have the secretary of state for communication, and they're actually having their day. They have the show for you people. And then the press secretary said something I want to highlight again. Dr. Sako is on top, and that's why he is a topic. He's the head, and that's why he's filling the headlines. And now the press secretary added, after the secretary of state added some more flesh. really breaking down like a scientist that we know, making us to see the fraud that was done on media space. Now, Press Secretary adds again. It's so sweet. I want to highlight so that you don't forget. She's now telling us, okay, you have given yourself an opportunity, do the work. Just to tell you, Ambazonians, that these guys are all a flop is the fact that instead of doing the work, they are still doing fruitless campaign. We had a certain individual that was out on one of the platforms yesterday. I don't know how he was still there. That's Mike Fusi. There's a way, Mike, whatever they want to call. And they should get to work and do the work and stop all the noise. Secretary of State, I have this question coming from Man for Truth. Amazonians, I'm reading the platforms and taking your question, and it boils down to just what we discussed, but maybe you want to add some flesh to what you've already said. Man for Truth is saying, Paddy King, this question is directed to the SOS. What is the interim government doing to stop any further killing of our valiant restoration forces by the so-called unity warriors? I think this is a very vital question, SOS, and you may want to really elaborate on that.
Oh, yes. It's always very sad when we realize that we have lost one of ours, not as a result of La Republique action, but as a result of our own. I'm talking about the Unity Warriors. It is a very, very difficult and a very sensitive issue. And I believe that the only way we are going to resolve it is by providing the material to our men and women on the ground, as well as education. Education is paramount. And understanding what the stakes are, and understanding what we are fighting for. And again, it comes back to what I already mentioned. Maybe you didn't really get it. The art of communication in this time is critical. Like in war, communication is extremely important. Because if you don't take the right advice, you die. If you don't execute as you are told, you die. And the president, as I told you, for the past couple of weeks, he has been talking to his generals. He's been, even during, he's been talking to his generals and all those who, come under the generals. Even during our last town hall meeting, I think somebody called him and was asking on a specific issue. He said, please call me afterwards. I need to talk to you on the ground. We need more education. And I think I've mentioned it in my previous outings that the education of our masses is critical for us to actually have real democracy. Everybody has to be educated. You should be able to singularly make a decisions based on the facts in front of you. If we arrive at a situation where we all have to tell that, oh, there is a snake out there, don't stick your finger in his mouth, it's going to be very, very difficult for us. I think the reason why we have ABC is to educate the masses so that when they see something coming from somewhere, they can say, no, 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 no. I don't recognize it. It doesn't look like the interim government. So it is incumbent upon us. There is education. Of course, we have to provide the material support to defend themselves. We don't have all the resources that we have, but whatever we give them, it comes with a strategy. And that strategy encompasses safety, operational efficiency, okay, and customers focus. Remember these words I told you? It works all the time.
All the time.
So that money comes with a strategy, and that strategy is to encompass, to make sure that you are not killed.
Yeah.
If the intent is to make sure that every restoration force carries an AK, we may never make it, but we don't need to. That's the point I'm trying to drive here. There are certain things that we have on them to make sure that they adhere to and they follow those rules. If they follow those rules, we are going to cut down on deaths. Because the strategy that Dr. Sako has for us, it is tied onto Lava Storm 3. Okay? We have to factor in our own capabilities in this fight. And that's where supply chain comes in. It's all bundled together. Schedule, budget, quality, all put together. At times it may be difficult to understand it because some of us have to learn it through actually doing things in reality and making errors and coming back. It is not easy for them to understand, but the president takes time to keep explaining. It's not that easy, and I understand that. But that's where I'm going to stop. And it's important for every Ambazonian to tune onto to ABC TV to understand what we are fighting for, so that you don't ask questions that may be considered, a little bit silly. We have to be mature, and we have to take our emotions away. We have to look at the big prize and fight for that big prize. Thank you.
Thank you, SOS. Lady Casey, before you, I'm sure you have some question there. Before you get into that, I want us to enjoy some of the comments your people are sending out there. SOS. I'll start by reading as much as I can read. Okay, I start with Free Mokum. You're right, Miss Casey. Ambazonia is free. That's from Vivian Anaro. Don says, great. Ahead. IG. Your chief of staff, Marot, says, so true, IG, the topic. Oh, Lady Casey, you're just thrilling the place. Martin Luther King Henry says, please, let us forget about them. I think you're right. Man for Truth Amber repeats the question I already gave to the L. Then Priscilla Mba, Lady Casey, tell them all President Sako is giving them daily news headlines. Yeah. Then you have Chris Santos, Choti says they are all liars. No $70,000 was raised. Do they have an account? It was just a stage fundraising. Okay, we want to believe you. And then you have Free Mokum with the funny. I hope I could interpret your emojis there. Unfortunately, I cannot. The SOS is enjoying all of your comments. Keep commenting, keep sending us encouragement. We love you. We love you so much. You have some way be Mbemji. Your name is so sweet. And he says, he says, quote of the day from Lady Casey. He's who is the top, he's the topic. So that's a quote of the day. I hope our graphic designers will put your picture there and put a flyer so that we can shift it around. The quote of the day. Wisdom Jim says, this is the handwork of La République du Cameroon. You're correct, Wisdom Jim. Lizzie Faith said, tell them. Yes, we're telling them. Milichi said, Coopers are extremely wicked. God does not support evil deeds. That's why they have failed. Yes, and they have failed, and they have failed woefully. I just want to add something from what Milichi said. Milichi is one of those that are working tirelessly at the back. Those are some of the people, when they talk to me anytime, no matter what they say, I want to consider what they say, because they don't just talk empty words. They can actually see they're matching their word. You have Fidelis, you have Nelson Chiba, you have Milichi, and many others, very interesting Ambazonians with a lot of love and passion for this struggle. Priscilla, you're always here on time. We've taken notice of you. You are just amazing. Priscilla says, Marianta is as dumb as her uncle Dion Gute. You're talking about Celine Dion Gute, okay? The one who said that, you remember his speech at Upstation in Bamenda. He actually knew that the time for our freedom is now. And he said it in his maiden address to Bamenda. That's so interesting. So I want to say this before Lady Casey. I'm going to read all of your comments, but I think Lady Casey will have to say something before I come back to your comments. I want to say something. If you're a shining light, you don't need to switch another person's light. And that's why I'm talking to the big mouths, to the coopers, poopers. You do not need to waste your time, create an entire TV. Ambazonians are tired of it. To tell Ambazonians what you come again in the same platforms. on the same platform to tell them you had no evidence. And these guys are listening. What spare did you put over them that some of these guys still listen to a man who says something today with all passion and energy, and he's shaking his head, and he comes the next morning to tell you, hey, listen, after all, everything I told you, I have no evidence. And then you are listening to him. Ambazonians, don't search it. Please, add some credence to yourself. Choose what you listen to. Sometimes we only respond to some things or react because we believe that education, like the SOS is saying, is imperative. If we do not educate, if we do not inform, you'll be disinformed and misinformed. And Russia is playing the disinformation strategy now to fight the war. So it is a strategy of war. So La République paid them and told them disinform the public and told them start a TV. So disinformation is a war strategy. It worked during the Second World War. Sicily actually used it. Russia is using it as we speak. I'm in the newsroom. I'm on the news every day. I'm telling you facts. And fortunately, Ukraine has the mechanism to decode some of them. Russia goes right into Ukraine to hack their system to inform the people of fake news claiming that it's coming from Zelensky. So
in fact, let me just add something. Let me add something to what you said.
Yes, go ahead.
You remember when the war was really turning and the La Republique discovered they were really in desperate straits? A bunch of these Francophones, they went to Bamenda and they said, oh, we have changed the strategy. We are going to do this. And then they brought all those tanks, whether they were septic tanks or whatever, and they said, oh, we are going to send this to Ambazonia. And ultimately, we saw none of them as part of the deception. That is the time that they were actually finalizing their deal.
It was a coping mechanism.
Listen, no, they were finalizing their deal. And the idea of changing the plan was to make sure that they use ANU and the others to destroy us from within. You have to remember this. We have the information from the Red Feathers. That is why they say, okay, we know we cannot win this war. We just have to start infiltrating those overseas, yes, okay, and that's the only way we can go. All that decision was made before they came to Bamenda. So it wasn't as if they were going to put more, feet on the ground. They were not going to do that. You see, they also gave us the impression that they're going to bring either spy satellites or whatever to track where we are. That was all a lot of garbage. They were actually
the real action was there.
That is where their last hope was. They had finalized their contract with Chris Anu, and they said, now it's time for you to take over and destroy the interim government. So that is the information that we have. And remember that when Mr. Ngute came to Bamenda, the idea was actually, and even before he came to Bamenda, remember that there was this talk about the ring road, or the World Bank has given money, they were ready to go, blah, blah, blah. They talked about it, and suddenly it was shelved. Do you know why? That is their weapon. As soon as Chris Anu delivers Ambazonia to them, and they join Sisiko in jail, and they're all considered common criminals, and they make them part of La Republique, now they're going to remove that wonderful ring road plan. They say, oh yeah, that ring road, finally, after 70 years, we are doing the ring road. And they think that we'll all be so happy that finally we have that ring road. After these people have sold us to La Republique, and they've taken away everything that they want, they will throw that ring road at you. That is their plan. They don't have anything else to give us. They have absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So you have to understand this. We've been keeping track of this strategy. Is that famous 4 inches of tar that they're going to give you? Yes. That will be the payment to Ambazonians for Chris Anu and his group taking us to Yaoundé. And let every Ambazonian know this. If that's what you're looking for, 4 inches of tar, you want to go back to Yaoundé in exchange of 4 inches of tar they've actually promised you in 60 years. Can you establish what we call the present value of that investment since 70 years ago? You tell me what that present value is. If you're an economist, do it and tell us what the answer is.
And yeah, SOS, let me just add to what you have just said. You know,
Yes, please.
it's very disappointing to see that some people want to settle for crumbs that we woke up and realized after 60 years that these people from day one, when our forefathers realized that they have been duped, they have been deceived by this French government, and they started looking for strategies to cut out from it. And our and people from southern Cameroon descent, because it's not everybody who is from southern Cameroon descent is who is an Ambazonia and who is fighting for who believe in Ambazonia independence, have been pretending this far, you know, to believe, to participate in the independence cause, in the liberation movement. And and with time, everybody is showing their true colors. And you mentioned the deals and stuff that has gone on that has created this divide that splits the interim government almost into two. But thank goodness for the resilience and strength of the leadership of President Samuel Sako. It still amazes me every day I wake up. Like, how does he sleep? You know, and for him to have kept his composure during this period of great trial to our freedom, to our liberation movement. And I want to tell fellow Ambazonians, you know, this cause of independence that we are in and fighting every day, our greatest challenge has not come from La Republique. La Republique is nothing to Ambazonia. La Republique is absolutely nothing. Our greatest challenge, our greatest battle that we are fighting and have fought so far are those within, are those enemies who pose and come to us as our brothers. And that's been the greatest battle. And now that would lead me to the aspect of education that the SOS is talking about. Education is absolutely important. We all have to be able to separate nonsense from sense. We have to be able to separate noise from substance. We need to get to that place. And how do we get to that place? You look at the main objective. You start from there. If you understand that, because sometimes I used to say maybe because of ignorance, but ignorance is not enough to make somebody behave like most of the coup plotters and the detractors we have had in the course of this struggle so far.
Yeah.
Is beyond ignorance. You must be really wicked, selfish,
Yeah.
and self-centered to be able to have acted some of the way they act. Because when I started, I was aware of the struggle. I was involved in the struggle. I knew nothing, but I was focused on the objective. And what was the objective? A liberated Amazonia, getting to Boya, fighting for freedom and independence. And because of that, I learned and I got involved in the things that contribute to that objective. And there is nothing that has happened, that is about to happen, or going to happen in the future that will distract me from this objective, from this goal. And like the SOS said, that we should focus on the prize. As much as we get the education to be able to maneuver our way around and make sure that we are very conscious of all the security risks that we are facing in the course of this struggle, we are conscious of all the distraction and misinformation, disinformation that will come to to tire us, to weigh us our energy, to make us feel heavy, to feel hopeless. Focus your mind on the things that will give you hope. And I've also seen some Ambazonia posted on Facebook, oh, maybe we need to go back to the draw, we need to retreat. No, we cannot retreat because the enemy has not stopped killing our people. This confusion is not enough excuse.
And let me add to that. Anytime you hear that statement, it's a coup plotter. Now they come to pretend like they are part of us, holding our flag. Not everybody that holds our flag is for us. When you hear somebody start telling us retreat, that's what you call emotional blackmail.
Absolutely.
It's actually conscientizing us, making us to feel like we're a failure. Some even told us to go and apologize.
Thank you.
Listen, this is a do or die. Do not act like an Arno who woke up one morning I don't know if he brushed his teeth that morning, came into the cabinet and told the cabinet members, hey, please, let's stop now because we are tired. How on earth can you say we are tired? How can we be tired? Say you are tired. And let me just add something here and take these questions and just read what the comment section are. A lot of Ambazonians are writing things. You can also put your questions. The phone lines will be open in the next 5 minutes so that the SOS can talk to you. And Lady Casey is here just spicing it up. Thank you, SOS, for your patience. Let me just read out some things that people are saying here right now. I'll say this and then if you watched our news earlier on, Okpala brought an analysis that was very instrumental. You have a colonial official sent from Yaoundé, Mecca. He comes to Bamenda and congratulates them for the work done. Congratulate colonial forces. So you now see a connection to that with what the SOS is saying. How is he congratulating them? We have not seen Jaguars go to Ngokutuja. He's congratulating them because their unity warriors are killing our fighters. Our fighters, the majority of Ambazonian fighters that have been killed of late have been killed either by the insensitivity or by the bullet of the unity warriors. This is fact. We have the news in our hands. That's what is happening. This is not sabotage. It is factual information we're reporting to you. And the unfortunate part of it, SOS, is that some unity warriors are not even aware that this is a La Republique. Some Ambazonians are just loving. They just want to be in a group. They want to be united. So some of them are not aware it is a manufacture from Norway in combination with, by inspiration with Yaoundé, and now Texas has joined with a big mouth. That is the problem. So that's the triangle. Now I want to read what Daniel Tasso says. I love where this conversation is going. Thank you. Freedom Mokum says God is on the throne. Ambazonia is free. Fokeng Priest says coup plotters are wicked. SOS. Clochi, your finance man, says that $70,000 or not is their cup of tea. Let us focus on making the ground hot. Good one. It says all we need is action on the ground from them. Talk is cheap. Yes, sir. I cannot agree any less. Chrysanthus Choti says people who were unable to raise $3,500 in 2 different fundraising Zoom meetings with more than 40 participants in the first and 270 in the second fundraising. Now he's questioning their 70,000. Abuno Akwe says, Mash fire SOS. SOS is watching. SOS, are you getting? Priscilla says, money that they can't pay their TV bills. Okay, that's left for them. Law Spartan says, this show today has destroyed the so-called coup plotters. Thank you, sir. Don't say SOS, our able Secretary of State for Communication. You are really teaching them which I taught. I'm sorry, maybe I'm not reading your English correctly. You are such an amazing person. Which I thought they could do something for themselves to be known to by disgruntled occupiers, but that can't work. I think the SOS understands what you're trying to say there, even though I've not read it well. Priscilla Amba says, we shouldn't waste any time with the coup plotters because they cannot do anything. You're right. We need this kind of show every day, Paddy. I just wish we can have it every day. And I love it too, like you. It says she's not, okay. I'm not interested in reading you what I share. Unfortunately, you shouldn't be here. Okay, what I said, she's not dumb. She is just being greedy and power mongering. Okay, perhaps the triple combined. Brilliant show, my people. Attila Dixon says, coup plotters have no agenda to free homeland. The SOS has said this. Every day he comes on board, the SOS decodes it in diverse ways. They have no plan. The SOS are like your what metrics, you know, you use it so rightly. In fact, they have no plan. That's true, sir. They are out to destroy what we have gained so far and eventually kill the struggle. Yes, create normalization. And that's why they're intimidating our genuine fighters on the ground. That's what they're doing. Some way be Mbepnji, your name, na better name. Says coup plotters should go ahead and show verifiable action against La Republique at the home front. No intelligent
Yes.
person listens to the blah, blah, blah of gang boss Christopher Anos anymore. Okay, I've said he's not Christopher Anos. He's not Chris Anos. He is Chris Arno. I like even the way he pronounces his name. I'm Chris Arno. And unfortunately, he's still calling himself communication secretary. I never knew this man was such a flop. He's not Chris Arnos. He's not Chris Arnos. He's Chris Arno. Your comments are so encouraging. Ochiba Nelson, the man always on the hotline, he's saying that we have been educating people, but they don't listen. My brother, keep educating and be patient with them. They will listen. The time will come that will listen. There are some people that they need to get some slaps. They need to see some consequences before they start listening.
Yep.
Wonderful contribution. Formum Sylvester says this show highlights the essence of sound education and ethical, personal, public conduct of national affairs. Ambazonia is free. Thank you. Thank you very much. Those are some powerful men at the background. Your contribution in whatever we do here is based on some of your hard works. Your contribution, ideas is so amazing. Paddy Mba Bernard says, okay, President Sako is giving them nightmare. That's from Fon Angwi. Yeah, indeed. Fon Angwi says Ambazonia is free, Dr. Sako Tiboya. Yes, we all believe that as long as he stays vibrant, creative, on top of his game, he should be the one to take us to Boya. He has what it takes. Do we want to compromise it for some Yaoundé paid agent? No way. We're not going down that road. Bernard says, Paddy, the coup plotters with 185 participants on Zoom, they raised less than 3,000. On same day, IG held an enlarged cabinet with 125 participants, which ended up with an impromptu lava storm 3 pre-fund and raised and gave 20,500, and that was paid cash. They actually raised more than that, but 20,000 was paid. In another meeting, Chris Arno needed 3,500 for ABS bills. In a Zoom meeting of 218 participants that day, they could only raise 2,500. How come in 3 meetings they will raise, in the third meeting they will raise 70,000? Fake. I love your analysis. In fact, you're winning the night. You won tonight with the best analysis. If I have to read all of your beautiful comments, I hope at the time the SOS would have taken some of your questions. I'll go through some of your comments. They are so encouraging, so inspiring. The importance why you've got to continually make these comments is because you're giving, you're also talking. You're a part of this show. You are also a presenter. The international community is watching and is listening. And that's why Coopers will create 25 fake accounts to come and say the same thing. We're not going to give them the platform to be talking nonsense on our platform. They will be blocked out of our platform. We'll give them the chance to watch, but not to comment. We can do that. We know how to do that. In fact, I know how to do that. As soon as we have the newsroom set up, there's some things that will happen on our page and you'll love them. Coopers will enjoy the shows, but they will not comment. So much you guys are saying. So much you guys are saying. The comments are in their hundreds. Tenola says Chris Butelezi, Chief Butelezi Chris Arno is dying of high blood pressure. I don't know what this man was thinking. But now the phone lines will be open. I hope the studio is going to have this phone line on the air so that you can start asking your question. SOS, please, you want to give some comments before you take questions?
Yeah, just in line with what you are saying. It's always very important that we bring the facts to the ground, and we can all together evaluate what's happened to our people over the past 60 years. We all know that for the past 60 years, or at least since 1980, the Prime Minister has consistently been an Anglophone. And of recent, you must have seen one of the headlines where a certain Philemon Yang is making very negative comments about our struggle. This has been it's a past Prime Minister. And if these are actually the leaders of Ambazonians, you begin to wonder, what is the achievement of Philemon Yang? What did he ever do in Ambazonia that he can stand up to and then make such a statement about our struggle? You look back, you tell me. This is somebody who was forgotten as probably an ambassador in Canada, to a point where he was probably chased out of the country because he was so old. They never replaced him for decades. And now he comes back, and probably he has a home in Canada and back home. What has he done to the Ambazonian people to feel that he has the right to come here and say that we have no right for our freedom, and actually labeling us as oppressors? Who is more of an oppressor than him? He has oppressed us. He claimed that he represents, or he used to represent Ambazonia. What did he do? Even in his home village, wherever he comes from. Can anybody stand up and say, or it's thanks to Philemon Yang, whom I believe, if my memory is right, that he was also Minister of Mines and Power. Minister of Mines and Power. What did he do? Besides just selling our natural resources to La Republique, or giving them to him for free in exchange for material benefit. And the guy has the audacity to come here and tell us, doesn't he see the suffering of Ambazonians? I mean, what is wrong with these leaders? These are people who are not too far from agrarian living. Our forefathers were all farmers. Whether it is Mr. Musonge or any of those, or Tabe whatever, I think there's Tabe Tando, these are all children of farmers, at least 1 or 2 generations back. These are the people who stood and called La Republique and said, bring your soldiers and kill these children. The children of farmers. The children of those who probably worked in the plantations and sent him to university or to school. These are the people who turned back and asked La Republique soldiers to come and kill them. Whether it's Musonge or Tabe Tando or Philemon Yang. How can you come to terms with that sort of behavior? Asking a foreign government to send troops to kill your own people. Go and kill them. And you sleep in your house and you feel that you've made the best decision. And he has the audacity to come and tell us that we don't have a right to defend ourselves. If life in Ambazonia is so wonderful, why doesn't he go and live there? We are trying to make a better future for our children. At least we are honest enough. At my age, I probably shouldn't care less. But we want the future of our own people to be better than what it is. For 60 years, these people have taken us hostage.
Yeah.
We should not accept this. We are all the children of farmers. There is no family that can stand here and tell me that my father or my grandfather wasn't a farmer. And because you are just a step away from that, you turn back and you are killing the children of the same, background where you came from. That is unacceptable. And we should be able to stand up and say no to this attitude. I wish I can have a debate on television with Philemon Yang or Dr. Dion Bute, and I will find out exactly what he has in store for Southern Cameroonians. I challenge them. Let us have a debate. And let him bring out all the facts. Let him bring out all the things that he thinks that he has done for us, that we have no right to take arms against the government that is killing us. And that challenge is open. It's open, an open invitation. to either Dr. Diongute or to Philemon Yang or to whoever is in that government to come for the debate. Thank you.
Ambazonians on the home front are already calling. They want to talk to the SOS. SOS, thank you very much. Do you want us to take this first caller, Lady Casey, before you speak?
Yes, take the caller.
Okay, caller, you can call back. He just dropped. The phone lines are open. Fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. We're receiving your text messages. For those of you who have received some messages on WhatsApp now, those that cannot call, I'm going to read it out to the SOS. I'm going to continually look at the platform.
Before you give the phone precedence, I just wanted to just touch some a bit more on what the SOS have just said about these people of Southern Cameroon descent, because that's how I call them, people of Southern Cameroon descent who are serving or working with La Republique against our liberation. And these which form the elites, or those we call the Anglophone elites. They fall in that bracket for what I call the Anglophone elites. And we all know that why they are there. They are there for their personal gains. They have no interest. Why they are talking what they are talking is because our liberation exposes them and hinders the prospect of their personal gains. And so they will make such ridiculous comments and statements, and you will see them working tirelessly against our progress. And that's why we should also know that anybody anybody and anything in the form of a brother or a whoever that come in the uniform and colors and fashion and style of the enemy should be addressed as such. They are not Ambazonians, or they are not for the struggle. All these Anglophone elites who are doing everything against our cause should be dealt with and addressed accordingly, because these elites are actually one of they form the enemy entity that Ambazonia has to face. Paddy, you can interrupt me if you have a call.
Yes, go ahead. SOS also had some things to say. I'm reading the messages. Some I might not read them on air. I'm sorry. Ambazonians, the phone lines are open. We have just about, you want a contribution, you want to make a contribution, you can call now. The number is +1 305 515 You can call in. I'll be reading some of your comments right now. Good. Okay, someone says we should block them. Thank you, Lady Casey. You're on spot on. Thank you very much. Lady Casey is listening to that. Okay, Song Good says that one TV equals to ABC, one president equals to Dr. Sako, one destination equals to Boya. That's amazing. SOS. You want to comment on that?
Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives me confidence that at least people have started understanding what our pitch is. That's our sales pitch. If you're a salesman, that's what you do. You need to say something that everybody catches and understands what you're talking about. Our sales pitch is Boya, 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 and only Boya. Whoever is going somewhere else, well, we are not interested. We are not interested to go to Yaoundé. We are not interested to go to Douala or anything else, or anywhere else. We are going to Boya.
Yes, hello, comrade.
I think that message is very clear.
Hello, comrade. Yes, comrade, you're live on ABC Amba TV. Network from ground. I'm sure it's from ground zero. Hello, comrade, you want to talk on TV? Hello, comrade.
Hello?
Yes, can you switch off your TV set, please?
Okay, let me do that. I want to find out.
Okay, please. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, do you have a question for the SOS? Or you want to make a contribution?
I want to find out that when you read the list of those who have contributed through messages, and you don't tell us where they are calling, so we don't even understand where they are calling and how you are reading the message. So is that not a scam?
Okay, you're watching live?
I'm watching live.
Okay, you're watching from the satellite?
Yeah, I'm watching from the satellite.
Okay, maybe you need to go to Facebook so that you can relate with the people and their names. They're on Facebook right now. All of them are looking at you. And definitely you are a coup plotter, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm not. Why?
Okay, so why do you think we want to scam you?
But it's scam. You just read names without this. I'm watching you, but I should get the. You say this person has given the message from where? You just read like that.
Okay, have you ever used Facebook?
I don't even need to use Facebook, my dear.
Just a question. Have you ever used Facebook?
I don't use Facebook.
You don't use Facebook, so I understand now that you are a primitive man who doesn't know how it works on Facebook. You don't know people's locations on Facebook. When you talking to people on Facebook, you don't even know their location. Don't drop. I want you to stay so that you are educated. Don't drop the call. I want you to stay and be educated. When you're talking to people on Facebook, you don't see their location. So you cannot drop. I may have to even call you back because you have to listen to this. When you're talking to people, okay, fine, thank God you're here now. When you're talking to people on Facebook, you see their names and you see, I know that you're living in yesterday. Today demands that on Facebook, when you place a comment, it shows you are there. I hope you're listening to me and you're going to listen because this platform has an objective to educate people. And as you're watching with your family now, choose to disgrace yourself maybe before your wife and children, I think you need this education. When you make a comment on Facebook, your geographical location is not shown. Your name and the comment is shown. Have you heard me, comrade? So you take that. Comrade, are you getting me? Hello? Okay, so you don't make contribution on things that you don't. You're watching on satellite, so you don't see comments. Thank you very much. Ambazonia, this is the only platform where we'll give coopers like this or people that are acting like he needs some education. Unfortunately, he has gotten it. And this is a wonderful day. He has gotten his education. I will drop your call now so we can take the next caller.
I'm
not one of those that you think you're going to come on air to intimidate. Don't even dare it. I will listen to you and I will educate you. Go ahead, Lady Casey.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize when they're reading comments, if you're watching on satellite, you will not be able to see comments. It's only those who are watching on the social media platforms. And if you're watching on the website as well, you will not be able to see comments. Only those who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and we're yet to start streaming on Instagram. Those who are watching on those social media platforms where they're interactive, beyond phone calls, where you can type your comment, and when you type your comment, whatever name an individual have used to register on that platform, that's the only name you'll be able to see, and whatever comment they have left under your video or under the broadcast. So that's where they're reading the comment. They're not scamming. Nobody is not a scam. And if anybody else is thinking like that and watching on satellite, those comments are being read. And that's why we also endeavor to open the phone line so that those who are watching on satellite can call, send in their messages. You can send a text message. You can send a voice note. Because sometimes we understand that in Ambazonia, reception or network, as is commonly known, is not the best. So sometimes you can send your message, you can send your voice note, you can call in and make your contribution or ask your question live. So that's why we create these various opportunity to interact. So like the social media is, most people there are leaving their questions and comments there, and that's why we make sure we read some of them, because most of them will not need to participate live through a phone call or the number on screen. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, some people don't even like their voices to be heard. So we've devised that we will have to read their comments, because even taking calls, how many calls can we take? Some people come in with calls. For instance, now I have Wiba Ibrahim. This is a constant. He always sends messages for me to send to the SOS. He's calling from Bowie County. The good news about what these callers are doing now is Our people are watching from all around Ambazonia, and they are participating and enjoying this program. And so Wiba Ibrahim from Bui said, "Good evening, Mr. Paddy. Greetings to SOS. My worry here is that what is the IG doing to protect Bui warriors from evil groups?" As SOS, that's to you.
I
Right.
think we've answered that before.
I think we've answered that. We have, the president has done something. I think he said it in our last meeting. I don't want to repeat it. I'm sure there were some resources that were sent to Bui in the recent past, and I hope the idea was to beef up their capabilities. And I hope that depending on how the ground changes, I'm sure the president is going to respond. I also understand that very soon we shall launch our draft for this year, and I think that's time for all of us in the diaspora should really realize that we are almost at the last stretch of this struggle, and we really have to dip our hands in our pocket and give something. It is very important, in as much as we are working on the ground to make sure that our people are kept in safety. We have to push the negotiation process because it's tandem to our struggle on the ground to make sure that we come to both a political and a military solution concurrently. And as we all know from the press conference or from the interview that Mr. Thibault Nash gave last week, he underscored the fact that this is not a winnable war from a militaristic or from a military point of view, and therefore diplomacy has to take over. And as I mentioned earlier in this discussion, we are on top of it as far as diplomacy is concerned. We have two parties on the table. We have La Republique and we have the IG under the leadership of Dr. Sako. I urge Ambazonians and I urge all those who mistakenly thought that by leaving the IG, you are going to prepare a much better route for us to get sovereignty. You are mistaken. If for any reason we hear that the government of Marianta, if you call that the government, after 3 months is going to meet with the group under Sisiko Ayuktabe, we are doomed. It means that they are going for that surrender party where they've all been considered as common law criminals, and that is the sentence that Mr. Tabe has as of now, unless he has changed. And for him to ever get out of jail is going to be a miracle. I just want to make that known to you. It is only through the IG.
It's going to be
like you said, through the IG that he can get liberated. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. There is a caller here. Where are you calling from? Yeah. Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from DC area.
Okay. What's your contribution and a question, please?
Okay. Yeah, I would really like to congratulate what you're doing with the SOS to make this platform grow every day. I really appreciate the effort you equally put together to bring the newsroom. The newsroom is now functional as it used to be before. So I would say my first question to the SOS is, what is it doing to how far has it gone to recover the 506? Is it 506?
501c status for ABC?
Oh, 501. That's correct. Thanks for the correction.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other question wouldn't be a question. Avoiding putting all eggs in one basket due to what Christopher Anu has put us into. I would really suggesting that I was thinking we could do or the use so that we can be training other people that can maybe taking news in different time. Yeah, even though the Hancock lady is doing a marvelous job as well. But we devise some days and say, okay, these people will take news or read news or go with news these days so as to make the work facilitated. If maybe something happens tomorrow, at least we'll have someone to easily back us up.
Thank you very much. I'll take that side of the question. We're actually working on that so that first of all, as you can see, for the past week now, we've been having news every day. For that part, the SOS will answer the other one. we're having it. We're going to make sure that there will be news on TV all through along as we move forward. Okay, thank you very much. As the next question is for you.
Right.
About
okay.
the
I would like to
ABC
thank. I would like to thank the caller for bringing that issue to me again, and I want to assure him that we are so lucky that we live in a country of law, the United States. We have hired an attorney, and the attorney has received our complaint, and we are using the law to put everything back to where it was. So
no, he's
rest
talking
assured,
about 501c for ABC. He's talking about
501. I think it's been re-established. Hasn't it been re-established? The
it has
501c
already,
for ABC.
okay. I would have just given the answer. We already ABC Amba TV, in spite of the flop, the mess of Chris Arno. The board has worked very hard, and we now have our 501c. I blame myself and ABC not to have announced that publicly. We have our 501c status, and we have restated things.
Okay, thank you. I thought it was referring to the treasury. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
We have another caller on the line. Ochiba, please go ahead.
We are legal.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paddy. I greet the secretary and Lady Casey. I want to appreciate what you people are doing to educate our people back home. I just want to give some hints to people who are on the home front, because they have asked me several questions. So I tell people where they tell me for home front, where they talk say CDC, you don't go pay money for president, 30 million. I don't want to ask them, and when they say, when they confuse, when they believe, I want to say, me you answer this question, sir. Say why it be say you the one come on go for market, you dey put your Android phone for house. Why it be say you dey lose all information where contain Ambazonia for your phone, you delete all those things. Why it be say when I know even enter Zoom meeting put on renames them. Now because when I know say La Republic, if you know say when they deal with Amba or Ambazonia, they go can't catch una. They don't catch someone they put up for prison, they kill someone that they kill a wazoo. Any person where they suspect say a deal for this struggle, for where they for home front, they can't catch it, either they kill it or they catch it. So why when I didn't check say CDC will sign deal with president, and then they never go arrest the manager for CDC? Read the Stiwaka. So why when I check say they never La Republic, they never go lock the doors for CDC? Because he used to say go give only 500 francs. Put them for Facebook, say your name like this person, you don't support Ambazonia call to 500. La Republic can't kill you the very evening. Then why they never go for CDC? So me wanna ask this question for those who protest them and all the night. Because the manager for CDC will not be above the law for La Republic for catch them. They catch the own minister, they put up for prison, kill people them. Then they can't rely on a for down there. Some deal not there because CDC not for get money for even pay all workers them. I would take 30 million for the pay one individual with them every time. So me when I calculate, when I check sense fine, when I ask them, say, if the manager be signing the deal with president, why they never catch the manager? And the question that when I ask our plotters, that one plenty.
Thank you very much. SOS, do you want to make a comment as we round up? Yes, I'm a press secretary.
Let me just add to what Ochiba said. See, and it is ridiculous that anybody will believe such outrageous thing. The same people who are saying that President Sako has signed a deal of 30 million, and the same people saying that he's broke, he's poor, he's homeless, and the same people who are saying that he's organizing a SSC2 to beg for money because he no longer has any money. So why will he have 30 million and be begging for money, or as is going to be chalked out of how he can't pay his rent, which they have been contradicting themselves so many different levels. The next minute they'll say Dr. Sako has failed. The next minute they say they are fighting to take the treasury. The next minute they say Dr. Sako is failing, is incompetent. The next thing they say they are going to take over or destroy ABC. So everything Dr. Sako is doing under his leadership that is working and serving Ambazonian interest, these people will come and poison. And if anybody is still asking such question, the president has collected this money and is still going and still making so much sacrifice for Ambazonia. And somebody who has refused to understand, who has refused to reason. And we will not waste time to talk to this type of people, because there are people who have me. I don't talk to another person twice to know their state of mind or their position as far as this struggle is concerned. There are some people who have decided to be neutralist, and we know that any neutralist, all those who are neutralists, all those who are campaigning for unity, just know that those that are against the activities or the leadership of this interim government. And I'm not going to waste time to see an Ambazonian, and we have a lot of them, even some of them in act, who are claiming to be neutralists, who are claiming to be for Ambazonia, but their hypocrisy is thinking at the moment. So we cannot be dealing and tolerating and accommodating such people. We have a lot of work. There's so much to be done. They launched very soon. They'll be launching of draft. We still have lava storm to complete. There's so much. The interim government will keep giving them headline and topics to talk about, and anybody who wants to be caught up and be distracted with them, they should stay there quietly. But if you have something to contribute, a constructive contribution that will contribute to progress in this interim government, you are highly and most welcome. Thank you, Paddy.
I think the lessons learned from such a
SOS, the floor is all yours.
Yes, the lessons that we are learning from what UN is saying is all about education. We have to develop some basic element of critical thinking in our people. This is something that I discovered that is so lacking among us, and that's why we seem to absorb whatever we are told. We just accept it. You don't think critically. You don't ask the necessary questions to bring clarification. It is a Herculean task, but we have to embark on it. Teaching our people to understand basic things. For example, they say they give you $30 million. Do you know how much that is? How are you going to transfer that money? I mean, in what form? And remember that even the president said, I'm ready to give you information on my bank account to go and look at all the transactions that has happened as far back as the bank was, that bank account was created, so that you can see for yourself whether there's been any transfer of $30 million into that account. This is strong evidence that if somebody who really wants to know the truth will say, yes, I want to see it. And the moment you discover that is false, you take it off your mind. But they keep on recycling this old, fake information, and there's still people who fall for it. It's very unfortunate. We've taken the results of MTTB all the way to the IRS. The IRS has information about what happened to Maitre Tuboya, and they accept the results, and that's why we're able to renew our account as a 501c. But still, people don't believe in it. Some has even written to a department of the IRS, and some have written to some states, said, oh, our money is stolen. Again, they come and tell them that there is no evidence to that effect. Ambazonians still don't believe it. I mean, these are people who were born and nourished in deception, where just a mere allegation is enough for you to be killed. And they think that that is how the law works outside Ambazonia. The law doesn't work that way. Even in France, it doesn't work that way. It is only in La République. People really have to know this. You must have to bring a legal basis for you to, to accuse somebody that he has done something. You have to bring the facts. You have to bring the facts so that an independent body can look at it and say, yes, you are right. And up to now, we don't have that evidence. And yet you still have grown-ups, mature people, still saying, oh, we heard that Dr. Sako took 30 million. You just hear and you're all in. It's
unfortunate. I said it's a laughing matter.
Okay, you want to say something briefly as we close?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's almost midnight at home front, and I believe most people would have been sleeping by now. So
we're closing right now.
We should, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahmed. SOS, thank you very much. Do you have a 60-second brief word to give to the people?
Right. Once again, I'm so happy to come in front of you to talk about the struggle and to give you some insights as to what is happening, whether it is on the diplomatic front or whether it's internally or whether it's just within the diaspora. I think we've exploited all these avenues, and I really hope that you get something anytime, at every time that you see me come on television. It is the medium where we can exchange ideas, even things that we don't agree on. If we are wrong, we tell you. If you are right, we applaud you, and so on and so forth. It is very important that we should keep this discussion open through ABC, and I really hope that many people will sign in to be club members of ABC, because that's the only way you can get the real facts about our struggle. And hopefully within the very near future, we'll be having real outcomes so that we can all measure and know where the future lies. Thank you very much, and good night.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you very much, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in this day. Today is the 29th of March 2022. A very special day. We are rounding off this program, and I want to just give you some briefings on some of the things that are happening. I think at this time, I'd like to tell the SOS good night. Lady Casey joining us from London, good night. And Ambazonians that are watching me in the home front and on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the website, I want to tell you thank you very much. Maybe I should just give you some clarity, some briefing as to what has been happening along the week and some things that we've discussed in the course. The SOS actually told you that the interim government is putting together not just resources but strategies that are needed to conclude the show for now. The SOS also made it very clear for us to know that we are in an advanced stage of the process as I speak to you, and a very advanced stage of the Swiss-led process. As we were listening to the SOS, it was brought to our knowledge that right now the interim government has even more stringent procedures as to how to get all Ambazonians involved. Thank you all those who have been following our news Undaunted. Tomorrow we will be back with the news Undaunted at 8 p.m. Amba time. But then I want to solicit one thing for you. If you want to watch a rebroadcast and other aspects that we will not necessarily be showing on Facebook, you want to enjoy Ambazonian playlist music that plays for hours and interjections, you want to watch our history and documentary, then you would have to subscribe on our page so that you can enjoy our program 24/7. We are streaming in every country and in every continent, and only club members in the diaspora are privileged to have themselves be a part of this wonderful thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ambazonians, on this day, the 29th, we had an amazing time with the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, and we elaborated on some issues, very pertinent issues. Thank you once again for joining our show. Thank you very much. You remember when we were discussing earlier on, we made mention of the fact that those who are going to Yaoundé, you can see their handwritings and their actions on the ground. How do you know? What is the indication? How can you prove that they're actually going to Yaoundé? It's possible. They kill our fight, they intimidate our people, they steal, they loot, they kidnap. Those are the ones that want to take us to Yaoundé. They're actually working based on the script of the Yaoundé junta, of the Yaoundé government. They are working on the script of Colonel Bankwi. They are working on the script that has been constructed from Norway, and now in some collaboration with Texas, with the assumption that they're going to stop us. If the Franco-Cameroon bloodthirsty army could not intimidate us in 2016, if by 2018, when we re-strategized, mobilized volunteers on the ground to defend our plight, our dignity and integrity, our national sovereignty, a sophisticated army with a budget, a quarterly budget of about 250 million US dollars, couldn't intimidate us at a time when we who had just peace plans, then demented Confucianists will not intimidate us. When we had bare hands, if the Cameroon or the Franco-Cameroon army was unable to intimidate us, tell some coup plotters that they are not capable to do the job. They will either vomit whatever blood money they have taken in Yaoundé, or they may want to join their friends in jail. But then we also know they are victims of circumstance, even though they are evil victims. They are victims that are conscious but have chosen to dine with the enemy. We have one duty. We're gonna win Ambazonia. I'm sure you heard the poetry of Don Juan Obi. And our newsroom did so well. Star Smart did so well in presenting it to you. We're gonna win and get our country for them too. We're going to win and get our country for every Ambazonian. But those who were not fighting with us, we will take note of them. I'm not in the position to decide what will be done to them. Ambazonia is a loving world. But we will not forget your treachery. We will not forget your evil. We will not forget your communion with the enemy to stop us. We will not forget. And in the nation of Ambazonia, you will have your place. For all those who are lavishly giving their lives, their resources, their time, their talents, what is there for you to do? Think about it. Our brothers are dying in the forest. They're dying in their numbers. They're dying. Some go for days without food. And you're in the diaspora, perhaps you just have to work extra time so you can increase your resources. Perhaps all you need to do is to give a special energy, and you're complaining of what? Even if your sleepless nights cannot equate those who are facing the bullet, not 1 inch. Sometimes when I reflect on this, and I'm like, how much more can I give? I want you to ask yourself this question. How much more can you give? It's time for us to give. I kind of get a little bit emotional when I reflect on what our brothers and sisters are going through. I think on that note, it's been Tapa the King. Let's end the show now. Good night. Until next time. Bye-bye.